Howdy folks, welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory and today is Wednesday, October the 16th, 2019. And I have the great pleasure and high honor of welcoming back to a friend of liberty, a friend of honest money, and a friend to the Daily Coin, someone who I've spoken with many times over the years and I haven't spoken with in quite a long time, and I can assure you that will change in the future. He has an incredible mind. He has an incredible spirit towards liberty, and someone who I hold in high regard. And I'm speaking of Mr. Claudio Grass, and you can find all of Claudio's great work over at claudiograss.ch. Claudio, welcome back to the Daily Coin.
Rory, thank you very much. I'm flattered and speechless for this beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well, it's all true. I mean, you've been a great friend of liberty and honest money for as long as I've spoken with you, which is, I guess, 6 or 7 years now that we've been talking. So, I mean, it's just the truth.
Tito, you're the same. I mean, we're on the same page, Rory.
All right. Well, we're just going to dive in and pick up right in the middle of our conversation.
60 people, but quite some press. The blockchain, I mean, when I look at, the Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, I still don't believe that it's a store of value. And I mean, when we look at Bitcoin, okay, what is going to happen if the last Bitcoin has been mined, and if there is no money to be made any longer? So how is that network going to be maintained? I think it's about the same as 20 years. When we had the internet popping up, and then you had CompuServe and some other companies which don't exist any longer.
Right.
But the whole internet overall. I think, the government lost. They were able to spy more on us, but they lost the control over the information monopoly. And now we can see that we have new, we got quite some libertarian crypto anarchists who never had some money in the past, but now they became, some of them became millionaires and billionaires at the end of the day. And so they're all looking into decentralized solutions using the internet, and the distributed ledger technology is definitely, I think it's a great tool.
It is a very good tool, and I think that there will be a place in our future where the distributed ledger or blockchain technology will be a dominant force in our world. I've said that as much as I don't like it. As much as it terrifies me, I don't have a say. I don't have a vote in that game. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You and I, neither one of us or any of the people listening to this, we don't have a vote. We don't. So it's not up to us unless we retaliate or find a way to a workaround in what you're describing with Real Unit or any of the number of gold-backed blockchain cryptocurrency tokens that are already in existence, and the ones that are coming online, like you are describing with Real Unit. I mean, those are the only way that we're going to be able to get out of this mess, in my opinion, because like Bitcoin or Litecoin or any of these current so-called cryptocurrencies, A, they're not a currency, and B, they are merely a digital version of whatever currency that they're representing. I mean, whether it be a Federal Reserve note or a Swiss franc or a Japanese yen, doesn't matter. The cryptocurrency itself has no inherent value, period. I don't care what anybody says. It's merely a digital face for another fiat currency, right or wrong? Is there an inherent value to a Bitcoin, a Litecoin, or altcoin, or this coin, or that coin, or whatever name you give it?
I mean, the future will tell. But I think, to me, I mean, cryptocurrencies. To me, I think so. Let's assume we have, these cryptocurrencies. They should have a kind of an intrinsic value, because let's assume one currency would give you access to computing power. That's the intrinsic value that such a crypto might have, that you can have computing power at any time, or that you can have cloud space. But basically, I think an intrinsic value for a cryptocurrency can be the network, the technology, something which is linked with the Internet of Things. So it could be storage, computing power, stuff like this.
Okay.
And then of course, I think most likely we're going to end up with, and so they will be in constant competition with each other. And then the future should be that let's assume we have gold stored somewhere, so that we could sell it against a cryptocurrency which is stable, so that the people don't lose a lot of transaction costs, or that they have to sell against the crypto which would fluctuate all the time. So I think the future will be cryptocurrencies in competition, coming down, having a stable value, so that you basically can sell your hard asset against the crypto, transfer, and then make the transaction. And the other guy can then basically use that crypto to buy another stuff on the other side of the world, on the planet. And then you wouldn't have, so we have to, because we have to go away from the banking system.
Right.
And I think so the crypto and the blockchain, that's basically the place to be. Also, a lot of companies which are operating today most likely will disappear in the future.
Wow.
But that's why I always explain my people, they should just, I'm not invested in cryptocurrencies. I'm not a speculator. Of course, at the end of the day, I don't like risk. So that's why I'm in the physical gold business. I only do stuff which I fully understand. And so because I had no clue where Bitcoin is going and how it will perform. I mean, I could buy one and then just say, if it's really, if the Bitcoin story works, then it might be 100,000, 200,000 worth in the future. And if not, then I just lost $8,000 or whatever. But so I decided, instead of just trying to speculate in certain new assets, which I don't understand completely, so I thought I look into fintech companies which would like to build up a relationship with them, so that I understand their business, that I understand their vision. But it needs to be services which are fully decentralized, empowering the individual, accepting privacy, so that you really, like this Core Ledger platform, which is basically it's a global trading platform, which is matching liquidity on the platform, so that you don't have to, people, let's assume I want to sell gold against oil. So there is always a double coincidence of once. If somebody else doesn't offer oil, I cannot close the deal. But now on this platform, basically all the liquidity which is there is, so the technology in the background basically is matching the liquidity, so that you even can sell your gold if somebody else is looking to pay for oil, but he wants pharmaceutical goods in exchange. If there is a trading possibility to execute that transaction, the platform is going to do that.
Yeah, seeing what you're describing sounds. Yeah, that sounds feasible, and that sounds like a way of getting away from what we have in place today, because you've got a need, and you've got you've got two needs that are being met, or multiple needs that are being met outside of the system. Now, that's an idea that I can certainly get behind. And then as these exchanges for the blockchain fintech technologies, as those exchanges develop and come online, then I think that we will see more and more of that. I mean, but the scenario that you described, where you've got somebody with pharmaceuticals, somebody with oil, and somebody with gold, I mean, does that platform currently exist?
Yeah.
It
It
does. Okay.
exists. It's operational. It's basically also technology partner that we are going to use to trade the real unit. Also, we have closed because of regulations and all that stuff, anti-money laundering. I mean, so we have a closed. So we only companies or individuals which have been going through our due diligence will be accepted as a trading partner on our white labeled core ledger platform. So
Well, that sounds awesome.
And at the same time, let's assume there is an EPG attack or coins get stolen or whatever. We still know exactly who owns what, because so we have to do this because we want to control it, and we basically want to combine the old world with the new world, but at the same time making sure that our people don't, in terms of no power any longer, or you have your USB stick got stolen or whatever, they basically can block it, and so they don't lose it. Like they would lose a normal crypto which is stored somewhere on their iPhone or whatever.
Okay.
Or maybe stored at an exchange. I think also the exchange idea is it's baked up. It doesn't fit to the crypto business. But it's in the meantime, that they have to do it because it's a new market. So you have to create these market makers to get liquidity and so on. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fit with the idea of blockchain and cryptocurrencies that you would have central players.
Okay.
And this trading platform is a bit different because they don't know who stands behind it. I mean, people have to tokenize real goods, real services through qualified partners, and then they can move it on this platform where they can trade it. But basically, it's a company. They are listed under Liechtenstein and Swiss law, and they offer privacy, and at the same time, it's not a centralized approach where the technology platform holder knows all the details and sees all the following all the who is buying what. Once it's on the platform and it has been accepted and it has been properly tokenized, then everything goes.
Cool. Well, that actually sounds like you've got some things that are worked out and that are already in place that I wasn't aware of. So thank you for that, Claudio. I sent you a link to an article that was published back in September. And that article is discussing something that just happened this past Monday on October the 14th. And it is the launch of two new gold contracts. And the two new gold contracts are, one is on they're both on the COMEX and both on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And these two contracts will be tying those two markets together. And to me, Claudio, that is absolutely terrifying and confirms for me that the Chinese gold market, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, when the COMEX said that they were moving to Beijing, they were going to move their offices, or they were going to open an office in Beijing. That was a huge red flag for me. And now these two contracts that are coming on board that are going to be settled in, one will be settled in Federal Reserve notes on the COMEX. One will be settled in yuan renminbi on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. I mean, it sounds a bit like they're taking the COMEX market rigging scheme international to me, or am I misreading what I sent you?
But I don't know. I mean, let's wait and see. I mean, the Chinese basically, China is definitely not the savior.
No,
it's really it's hardcore communism, and we can see also the whole surveillance stuff, which is also coming towards the West. That's the it's the communist dream at the end, and still it's a communist economic system. And so I don't want to end up on the Chinese rule. And at the same time, they at least they purchase quite a lot of gold.
Yes.
Roughly, they always have these 20,000 tons of physical gold. They basically advise their individuals, the residents in China, to buy gold already a few years ago. So and now they had. To me, there was always the exchange. They established this Shanghai Gold Exchange, physically backed by gold, attacking also with the oil contracts, the US dollar, and so on, to have renminbi contracts. It's really something they most likely want to, because the renminbi as a trading, also as a world currency, I mean, it's nothing. It's a minor amount, a percentage that is traded in renminbis. And but when backing it up by gold and so on, most likely they just try to increase their reputation and the trust into the renminbi. And now that they try to combine those two exchanges, I wouldn't go that far to see already all the worst case scenarios. But let's wait and see. I mean, on the other side, it's gold. I mean, I think physical gold is coming more. Because right now, I mean, look at. We have 17 trillion of negative bonds. So, which is huge. I mean, so
Yes.
At the end of the day, government or the financial business tells us, if you buy a treasury, you give us $1,000 or $100,000 today. You don't consume, you invest it, and you can be sure that we pay you back in the future 90,000 or 95,000. I mean, it does not make sense at all.
None.
So what we are witnessing right now is basically an honest zero interest rate when it comes to gold. Because look at the world. I mean, Lagarde in Europe. I mean, it's a political position. She is not. She has no clue when it comes to money. She knows how to spend money, and so the ECB is going to restart monthly purchases. In the amount of 22 billion. They basically reduced the negative interest rates from 0.4 to 0.5 minus. Now we have the Fed, which also decided, that they will they lowered the interest rates, and now they also announced that they're going to buy additional treasuries, 60 billion a month, plus the overnight repo, what they already had to do since the middle of September, when basically overnight lending rates shoot up to 10%. They had to inject, quite some liquidity. So, I mean, we are back where we can see that central banks are just printing. They're ready to print. They don't call it QE. They call it, I don't know, a new form of QE or whatever. and then you have all these guys looking for security. I mean, even in the States, I mean, there was a survey from Wilmington Trust, and where 61% of the investors with an income of 225,000 and more were saying that they give up for growth opportunity and they are looking for downside protection. So they can go into negative bonds where they know for sure that they're going to lose money, or they could go into physical gold where they don't have opportunity costs any longer. So I mean, the storage fee and the insurance is cheaper than the negative interest rates, and at the same time they can buy a real asset which has no counterparty risk, and at the same, which is also quite undervalued. So I mean, the upside potential is there on that with gold, for example, is much better than of course buying a bond in an environment where banks are just going to dilute and debase the currency even further down. So I just expect a day in the future where you're going to see more and more people who are free to invest. I mean, we're not talking about pension funds, because the pension funds, that's the playing around with other people's money. So that's why they're not that much interested to make the most out of it. And at the same time, we can see that all these pension funds have been hollowed out because of negative interest rates and all that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, but they cannot go into gold in most jurisdictions because, governments and the banks, they don't want that, of course. So they have certain guidelines which they have to follow. But I mean, when we look into ordinary people which were in treasury bonds in the past, some of them are going to realize that gold is a much better deal, and so I expect to switch in the future away from treasuries into physical gold.
I would agree completely. And we were just talking about gold-backed cryptocurrencies, and it's no secret that China has really ramped up. I mean, I've been reporting on this for the past month or so, how China has the Facebook Libra coin really got their attention. And while they were slowly developing a national cryptocurrency for China, when Facebook announced that they were going to develop this Libra coin, they changed gears, and then Libra coin took another step, and China made another announcement and said, "We're on it. We are going to be out in front of this thing, and that's the bottom line. We're not going to allow the Libra coin to get the jump on us." Now, things have changed with Libra coin in the past week or so, with a number of companies backing out, saying we're not going to fool with it. Not sure how that's going to impact China's development. But we also have, on the other hand, Claudio, we have Russia, who has been, this is pure speculation on my part, but according to their central bank chief in Russia, she said that they were going to develop a cryptocurrency. And I personally believe that either Russia or China or the combination is in fact going to release a gold-backed cryptocurrency. And I think that both of these nations have been gathering up all this gold, and now with the introduction of fintech over the past 2 years, in particular, past 3 years, I should say, everything's kind of changed. I mean, how do you see the development of these two nations with the cryptocurrencies, and in light of the fact that they do have all of this gold and continue to acquire physical gold?
So all the governments, they realize that this is the new financial system, and they also want to move in that crypto business, because they understand that I think that the classic fiat money system and the banking system is losing heavily. That's why we can also see all the banks. I mean, the banks, we're expecting a banking crisis in the Eurozone, because
Yes.
they are completely no liquidity. I mean, they are squeezed out.
Right.
And they are fine. They're financing 15% of all the companies in the Eurozone as well as in the States are pure zombie companies. Basically, companies which can maintain their business because of cheap money. But they don't produce, they are not positive. They are destroying the competition, and they are just there and zombie. I mean, they're real zombies.
Yes.
And if the liquidity crisis is coming, which I'm expecting, all these companies will go down the drain, bankrupt. I mean, in Europe, we are talking about roughly 50 million employees, which are going to be affected by this.
My goodness.
So, I mean, I think the old system. Everything. We are in a long-term cycle. At the end of that cycle, and we have now 100 years of central banking. I think that's there was enough, and we are at the end of that central banking cycle, and now we have a new technology coming up. We have the internet, which is fully decentralized, open source. And it's a heuristic, it's heuristics, peer-to-peer agreements. So you cannot control it. And that's the underlying basis. And so all these governments, when they try to bring up new centralized solutions, most likely, the majority is going to buy that crap. But at the same time, you're going to have people who are conscious enough and to understand what's going on, and they will try. They're going to look for decentralized solutions. They are looking for private money, but backed up by, I don't know, it can be gold, it can be a basket of different hard assets or whatever. I mean, everything with the blockchain basically can become money, because as long as you can trade it on a global market platform, basically, where you have thousands. In the future, we're going to have millions of market participants who can, from at home, they can offer that kind of services are real goods once it has been tokenized. You know, that the custodian, of course, with tokenization always, and real assets always, the custodian is, of course, it's important that, because let's assume if I would have a gold company, I could create my own gold coin, my old gold currency. But then, of course, you need to do the audit. You know, it needs to be professionally done. You need to have the trust as a company by your customers and so on, so that you have the reputation to become a private currency. You know, that Claudio Grass gold company in Switzerland, so that the people can be fully aware that this is a sound market participant, and that the gold, right, which is tokenized and traded, is also definitely stored within Switzerland, for example.
Yes, and that's all, and the audits and prove that you do in fact have the 1-to-1 ratio that you say that you have. You know, we have, correct, we claim we have 100 tons, and third-party audit comes in and verifies you do in fact have the 100 tons, and it is segregated and separated the way that it's supposed to be properly. And you said something, Claudio, that sparked a thought, in that a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with Dr. Warren Coates, and he is one of the chief architects of the IMF's special drawing rights unit of measure, unit of account, I should say, the SDR. And the conversation centered around exactly what you said, which was a basket of commodities, because he had written this article, and I went through and just kind of picked it apart and kind of railed on it. And he reached out, he sent me an email and said, well, you know, you're wrong. And it's like, well, okay, we need to talk about this. And so his whole idea was exactly what you were saying, but he was talking about a basket of commodities of approximately 30 different commodities that would all shift and change and be weighted different, just like you would do the currencies today in the SDR basket of currencies, or in the IMF basket of currencies. But there wouldn't be any one commodity wouldn't be outweighing any of the others, the way that the Federal Reserve note outweighs all the other currencies. There wouldn't be a commodity that would have a singular voice, if you will, over the rest. They would all be equal at all times. And I said, well, that if the inflation rate is manipulated, which we know that it is, and how does that impact it? And he kind of stumbled on that. I'm not going to say he stumbled, but that it changes everything when you're forced to look at commodities realistically at their actual market value, which you and I both know is not reflected in today's markets because everything's rigged. So yeah, how do you see that playing out if something like this were to happen? And you suggested a basket of commodities, or 2 or 3 commodities. How would that work from your perspective? I mean, it would force the hand of these market riggers to bring some honesty back to the table. Otherwise, it wouldn't work, right? Because if you've got rice that's rigged in Asia, and you've got corn and wheat that's rigged in the United States, then those two are going to offset one another, and you can't get a true balance going on, because of course the Asian markets are going to say, well, we need ours to be X in order for us to look good and be able to pay our farmers properly. While in the West, they're saying the same thing about wheat and corn, saying, well, we need to rig ours in this manner in order to be able to skim and scam and do all the things that you guys are doing in the Asian markets. So it wouldn't work, or would it? I mean, I don't see how it could work unless everybody says, okay, we got to have to be done with all this scheming and scamming. Otherwise, it won't work. Or can it?
I mean, at the end of the day, blockchain is driving us towards real hard assets. The markets, I mean, why do we need money? We always needed money because, I was a butcher and I had to sell some meat, but I needed shoes. And so the shoemaker basically had enough of meat. So he told me, no, I cannot give you shoes because I don't need meat, but I would exchange it against bread and so on. So that's how people had to find the most liquid hard asset on the market, which was accepted by all market participants. That's how money, or let's say gold and silver, came into existence.
Right.
As the most liquid. And now, of course, it's still the same because we are still in a barter economy. At the end of the day, I work and I provide a service, or I sell something and I expect something in return, and to buy me with that money a specific good that I'm looking for, or bills I have to pay or whatever. But that's still the same. So with the blockchain and the decentralized internet, this all becomes a possibility.
Okay.
And when we look at the market rigging, the markets are rigged because some central banks are printing money out of thin air, and then you have they basically, the first guys who receive the money, they can play around with it, they can buy at existing prices, and the longer the money flows down to the individual as such, I mean, he's the guy who's been fucked at the end of the day because all prices went up, and so he's getting poorer and poorer, and the purchasing power of the money he receives is going down and down. But the rigging of the market is all because of cheap money or free money, which certain players with the license of the government and the protection of the government, or the big multinational companies, these guys, I mean, they are going to disappear in the future. Especially, we don't know, I mean, this is the next crash which is coming. I mean, so we had 57 hyperinflations in the last century. So, I mean, governments go bankrupt. And now, I mean, look at, we had 80 trillions additional credit injected since 2008. So meaning, a trillion seconds, sometimes people call me and say, yeah, a trillion second, the figure that you're mentioning is not true. I mean, they can go online and convert it. A trillion second basically is 31,700 years.
That's a long time.
Just to give an idea, because we hear those figures, but we don't know, how much is a trillion now, and how can I imagine how big that figure is. If they hear that it's basically 32,000 years, and they basically injected 80 times a trillion, so they bumped us back 80 times into the Stone Ages. And now we can see, that, I mean, we had no growth. I mean, the growth data are manipulated anyway, because there you have government credit going into the GDP data. And I mean, it's also faked. It's bullshit. But it just shows, I mean, that's the issue. The government, the monopoly of the government to print money. And government gave us never good money. When you go back into history, when they were controlling the coins and so on, I mean, they were always debasing the currency. And that's why now we have a system which is connecting every individual at the end of the day, and it's open source, because that's what most of the people are scared. They believe there is only one side of the coin, which is the centralized, the surveillance, the spying on side. But they don't see the other side of the coin is full decentralization. And in the next crisis, governments, I mean, we see these cracks in the system already, or the cracks in the matrix, whatever, Trump and Brexit and AfD. And now we can even see, Germany, the opposition is rising. We have the secession movements and so on. We have China, which is has been built up with credit. I mean, no one is going to survive, or no nation state is basically going to survive the upcoming crisis. It will be bigger than the ones we had in the 20s. And we don't know how then government is going, to come out of ashes, or if with the new technology, the people who are conscious about, who understand the internet, who had an open mind following the internet and really trying to educate themselves what it's all about, what are the possibilities. They will be anyway it doesn't matter what comes out of the next crash, but these people will be able to ignore the king. They don't have to kill him because they just can ignore him. So we're going to find more freedom, at least, the people who are aware and who are intelligent enough to understand that government is the problem and not the solution.
Exactly. Government is most definitely the problem and never has been the solution to anything. They just want to control our lives and use us as an ATM. Just steal our labor through taxes and inflation, and that's it. That's the whole deal. But
absolutely,
we've been speaking with Mr. Claudio Grass. You can find all of Claudio's great work over at claudiograss.ch. And Claudio, I certainly appreciate all your time today. This has been a great conversation, and I apologize for us not. And once again, I apologize for us not talking for so long in the past, and I can assure you that will change going forward. So I look forward to speaking with you in the not too distant future. And in the meantime, have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, Rory. Always a pleasure talking to you.